Okay, welcome back. It is early December 1875. We left off then in late November with an operation plan into southern Serbia. You'll remember that in the last kind of video, the Austrians had they'd recovered quite well from some pretty grisly defeats around Bucharest, and they were engaged further in Serbia and given a drubbing there. They then concentrated the remnants of their defeated army with renewed forces from Bihać, reinforcements obviously from the interior, and conducted a pretty successful operation into southern Serbia, and even defeated the First Army under Mehmed Ali in his attempted withdrawal from Novi Pazar. We've sort of counter-attacked, but there were no engagements in southern Serbia, so we didn't actually get to go toe-to-toe with the Austrian forces. Furthermore, Abdi Pasha, with his 8th Army, had attempted to maneuver behind the Austrian force into Belgrade, with a view really to just kind of disrupt supply and logistics, disrupt their flow of replacements, and that's kind of, he's got into a bit of a pickle. We tried to set him to kind of evade combat, passive posture to try and pull out, and he's not managed to do that. He hasn't been engaged, but he's not managed to, but he's basically been blocked from kind of leaving Belgrade, so he's in a sticky old spot, and it rather compels us to actually then, I mean, we're in a position to as well, to actually launch a general offensive into the Belgrade district with a view to engage what is now, once again, a huge Austrian force. They've recovered a lot of their replacements. They have a fairly sophisticated command structure there as well. And they've got von Ostrich, von Sternik, von Philipsburg, Beiland-Reit, Edelsheim, Giali, Ringolsheim, Vudish, Monte Pastello, and von Ostrich. So they got a host of commanders with some pretty serious assets as well. I mean, there is a God, I don't know how big that force is, but it's got to be at least a half to 2/3 of the entire Austrian field command, possibly 3/4. It's pretty significant, but we're going to look to engage it. And in the last analysis, what we want is really large Austrian concentrations that we're well placed to engage to defeat. Otherwise, sort of, what is it that we're doing here? In the east, all quiet on the eastern front. We were looking to really maintain a defensive posture here. We've only got 2 commands that we kept back. The 3rd Army under Abdul Karim Nadir. He's a stellar defensive commander, which is why we want him there, and he's supported by the 5th Army under Valaquia under Ahmed Pasha. The Austrians have some forces in Bukovina, what looks to be 1 corps. I don't think, I might be wrong, but I don't think they can move from Russian territory into our territory whilst at war with us. I think there might be a restriction there, but I might be wrong, because whilst Russia obviously offers them transit rights, Russia is not, it's not a co-belligerent in this war. It's not an ally of theirs, so I don't think that they're allowed to do that. So that force is probably going to fall back to Bukovina. They have pretty considerable force in Bukovina as well. It does have a command penalty, and we can't see any commanders locally, and there's been no evidence. It looks like much of their staff commanders are concentrated around Belgrade. So this is going to be a hard action, I think, but we have got all of the pieces in place to make a move against the Austrians there. Aside from that, we are seeing the crystallization of some troubles for the Austrians, some evidence of domestic problems. They have a revolt in Friuli, in Udine, and also Spalato and the Dalmatian coastline. Whether that's a function of the war, I don't know, but it's obviously welcome stuff. So yeah, more of that, the better. And that would, of course, just function as a distraction that will draw forces away. Lesser, of course, on the Dalmatian coastline, because it's so close to where we have sort of lines of action. What is of more concern is increasing Austrian concentrations again in Bihać. These probably look like maybe mobilized forces that are now kind of perhaps approaching being combat worthy, being concentrated north of Sarajevo, but also an army-sized force in Kataro. Now, it may be that it's an army-sized force simply by virtue of the fact that it has an army commander, a 3-star, and he's in charge of at least 2 regular formations. Whether they are divisions or corps or brigade is not entirely clear, but they also have a supply detachment. We need to consider that, because there's a likelihood that's going to press into sort of maybe besiege Montenegro and then maybe into Albania. The onus then is on us to kind of engage in a big action at Belgrade in support of Avdi Pasha. To that end, Avdi Pasha defensive posture, we're going to hold at all costs. Now, the only real fly in the ointment here is Hussein Avni Pasha cannot move. He is not activated. I mean, he can move, but he'll move very, very slowly, and he cannot conduct offensive maneuver. But he can support from Novi Pazar, so we're going to keep him there. We're going to move the 4th Army up. 3 days. Good stuff. 3 days. And 6th Army. 6 days. Oh, that's moving through. It won't move directly. That's... Oh, what's going on here? Alright. That's depressing. He can essentially support from there. And we will have 3 commands in Serbia. So it maybe it's not the worst thing to have the 2 flanks and a supporting role, frankly. And Abdi Pasha's there anyway. What we're going to do... Because what happens is... Assuming we defeat the Austrians here, because this is an absolutely monumental Austrian force, is we're actually going to try and set to pursue. Now, that may not work, because what will happen is as soon as the Austrians withdraw, yeah, so it's actually going to try and engage Albrecht's army. Yeah, and that's the same. Good. The idea is that these should theoretically default to pursue the command. So if Albrecht falls back to Sava or somewhere like that, we can then try and exploit that a little bit by pushing on. That can be risky sometimes, but I think because they're going to leave Belgrade anyway, because of the legal ambiguity, I mean, they may not even be allowed to enter Belgrade. Actually, they will, because the Austrian force is so massive there that control won't shift to us. I think control will remain 100% Austrian until all of those Austrian forces vacate. We don't have any diplomats, and we're not going to have diplomats at least for a year or so. Otherwise, we could just declare war on Serbia, which then resolves that legal situation. Anyway, okay. But that's that action plan. Avni Pasha stays defensive, hold at all costs. Defensive, hold at all costs. Hussein Avni. Apid Mutar will put to defend because he's not moving anyway, hold at all costs. And then we're going to prosecute to the hill, to the offensive into Belgrade. Good, fine. Done. Now, because of the vulnerability of the Austrian position in the east, and the fact that we have inflicted a number of defeats on this Austrian 6th Army in Bukovina, we're actually going to roll the dice here and try and put pressure. It's a 3-day march for the 5th Army into Moldavia. We're going to set into an offensive posture just in case Austrian forces can or do attempt to move. And 3 days is good. And then Abdul Karim Nadir, we're going to move up, and we're going to look to hold the ground. Bukovina 3 days. And he should receive support. Yeah, good stuff. So we should essentially be committing about 180,000 men to this action against the force, which is probably considerably larger, but disorganized, comprised of a lot of conscripts. The advantages, and some of them are the same advantages we've had since quite early on, which is to say, experienced professional soldiers, good effective leaders, but we also have into the mix now good technology, like or kind of technological parity, which we didn't have early on. So it does add that much more sting. By the way, this may not come off. I'm not entirely sure how well this is going to come off. It could be a grisly defeat. If it is, it's back to the drawing board. And bear in mind, we are getting offers from Austria. I mean, they're offering us each time something slightly better. So we're looking at reparations for 2 years. Okay, if they pay up. 126 a year for 2 years. Plus they cede Illyrian, which is basically the district around Kataru, which is not a particularly wealthy area, but it's definitely, you know, it's definitely a morsel on the plate. Bear in mind that Fiume is actually ours now, because they ceded that to us. But, I mean, the problem with the Salami option is if we take a district for every war, we're going to be looking at almost perpetual warfare with Austria for, you know, God knows how long, before we're able to really reduce them enough, to enfeeble them enough for them to not come back again in 4 or 5 years' time. I'm not sure if I fancy that. I think what I fancy is kind of what I had been talking about, is to create a sort of military district. What I was thinking of is the Soviets, I think when they controlled eastern Poland after 39, or maybe the Baltics, before they were integrated into the Soviet Union, obviously we're talking about a very different time period, mid-20th century, but they characterized them as kind of special military districts. And that was kind of my thinking with Hungary, because if we just militarily occupy Hungary, and we are technically de facto at war with Austria, but an Austria that is so enfeebled it can't conduct offensive operations against us, these areas do fall into our domestic market, which is to say, the wealthy elites of Budapest are buying our opium and our coffee and our luxury goods and so on. The workers and the middle class types are going to be buying our, tobacco and clothing. But we can't actually develop the local economy, which, by the way, we have devastated in our various wars. They have a little bit of residual agriculture. In fact, they've reconstructed some of their agriculture quite well in the plains of central Hungary, but their industrial economy has been laid waste to. And we can't really develop that. I don't think we can build anything in areas that are militarily occupied. But it does become part of our market. Not inversely proportional to the population. It is a kind of a diminished version of what it would be. Probably they don't consume as much as they would if they were a part of the Austrian Empire, put it that way. Even, its Hungarian character notwithstanding. Perhaps Austria-Hungary would be different, but anyway, bit of a tangent there. Economic admin has been set. I'm going to double check it, but I think everything's looking sort of hunky-dory. Yep. Apparently a lot of these things like, oh yeah, textile mills. So we've got a technological, what did we get? It's when I passed turn, and we got Northrop Loom, which allows us to upgrade textile factories. That is a touch. There we go. So we're going to begin doing that. And the good thing with textiles is there is quite a bit of play in our domestic market for textiles. And textiles, I think there's still a pretty decent export market for textiles. Chesapeake, yeah, so demand, the biggest exporter are the Americans, basically. 42 units a fortnight sold, with demand sitting 158, which way outstrips supply. Okay, North Andes is like, the supply slightly exceeds demand, but we're talking by a very small amount. Northern Germany's 29, but demand is like 114. So there's a lot of play in that market. Textiles has still got a really serious future. And the good thing with textiles is it is an industry that we can support well. We're sitting on a huge amount of dyes. Our dye consumption is actually accommodated for now by our chemical factories. All of our dye quarries are closed, and we're still running at a surplus. It's insane. So we actually now have, excitingly, a part of our economy that we can develop in a kind of completely rational way without creating insane distortions. So dyes, cotton and wool. With cotton and wool, we've still got a lot of play there anyway. And we've got, the great thing about Anatolia is it's great grazing territory. So we've got loads of unexploited kind of wool farms, plus some cotton in the Levant as well. So it's an industry that we're going to be comfortably able to support, which means that it's going to be really efficient. We're not going to be importing anything, except coal. But that's the case with everything now. So yeah, that's one. How much do they cost? Yeah, they're not cheap. So it's a little over a G in terms of private capital. Manufactured goods 164 down to 94. So 70. A little bit of steel, a little bit of coal. No state revenue. Okay. We're going to have for two. Yeah, we're going to have for two. So let's upgrade 2 textile shops in Constantinople. Make sure it doesn't leave us with any shortages. No, that's good. Lovely. You know what, I'm just going to expand one for now. The reason being is I just want to see... Output is 5. I guess it's going to go up to 10 or something like that. But what I want to see is what additional commodities go into it. Because I'd imagine mechanical parts is going to be it. It's not going to be anything like steel. But maybe chemicals in addition to dyes. And turning 2 textile shops into massive factories straight away. Yeah, let's do it progressively and gradually. Let's just kind of keep a careful eye on it. So we're going to upgrade one site. We've got one we can upgrade in Smyrna. Yeah, so I've closed a couple of steel factories down, or mothballed them, because we're sitting on a huge stockpile of steel. And what I want to start doing is I don't want to be importing massive amounts of coal to support the production of something which is lost due to basically wastages and corruption, because we're sitting on insane stockpiles. So I started mothballing some steel factories. Another one also in Sinop. There's a textile mill there that we can upgrade. I won't go through every single one now. I can just kind of... You know, this economic structures feature, despite all the amount, the years that I played the game, I never really used it before this campaign. I don't really know why. I think I played with it a bit. I was like, how does this work? You know, and it was actually in this campaign that I sat down and started kind of. I realised it's actually really simple. I don't know why I found it so difficult. He says now not being able to do it. Output, yeah. Textiles, yeah. Okay, fine. So we got that's Thessalonica, or Selenik, one in Constantinople, one in Smyrna, one in Sinop, so 2 Constantinople, one in Baghdad, one in Ankara. Okay. Let's check the output of the one in Baghdad. It has got railroad access there. Yeah. It's 5, yeah, it's fine. There is a little bit of variation. You'll notice it's not like a mechanical game. If you build a factory in one city and then build a factory in another city, but even if it has the same population, you'll notice there's a small amount of variation, reflecting all different kinds of things, I guess, different factors, of which I'm not entirely sure what they are. But certainly, if you look at your population census or regional census, general attitude, well, you know, contentment and attitude of the population. If people don't really like you, particularly the strikes and demonstrations, you will notice a significant decline in productivity. One of the ways you can improve the general attitude in a region is through development, but only sustained development. If you sort of build loads of factories in 1 year and then never develop the region again for 10 years, what will happen is the kind of satisfaction will begin, the attitude will kind of plateau, and then you could begin to go into negative figures again, unless you're meeting demand. At least early on, you need to meet kind of basic consumer demand. Provide a range of foodstuffs, I found to be sort of rather key, but right, that's it. Austrian forces. You see, I've seen lots of Austrian forces in East Anatolia that have never managed to make their way, or in the southern Caucasus, that have never managed to make their way into East Anatolia, suggesting that they can't do that, even if they have transit rights through Russia. Economic admin set. No prestige lost. Going to really quickly read through the general reports. We know what their offer is, and we're not going to accept it. So we're seeing a really high war score. It's like 94, and we don't really occupy much of their territory, and that's purely based on massive battles, you know. So yeah, I mean, occupying a huge part of their country in almost perpetuity is a very un-19th century thing to do. Don't get me wrong, but you know, so is declaring war on another country every 3 years, which the Austrians have done. I mean, let's be real, the Austrians, you know, have been very un-rainbow rhythms since the sort of mid-50s. And I kind of think, you know, we either face up to the fact that we're going to be looking at 75 now, so 75, 85, 95, 05, 15. We're going to face 45 years of perpetual conflict with every year, the Austrians will probably become more powerful. Once they eventually, redevelop their economy, they start sort of investing in Academy of Sciences and stuff like that. It will be more touch and go later on, and there'll be less margin for maneuver and stuff later on as well for us to, it could be much bloodier, much more expensive, and again, the longer we carry on doing this, the more likely it is, the more inevitable it is, frankly, that this will happen simultaneous to Russia. Imagine if Russia made a move now. We've got one army spare in Eastern Anatolia, which, by the way, I'm seriously considering moving to the European theatre with one 3-star, and that's only going to be that's going to be fighting a defensive campaign in Eastern Anatolia. That's not going to be like conducting offensives into the South Caucasus, is it? So, and it will happen eventually. So I kind of think we whittle the Austrians down. We occupy Croatia, Hungary, the Carpathians, conduct periodical sorties into Bohemia, Moravia, Austria, just to destroy their army every couple of years, just whittle them down, turn them into something that's completely ineffective, turn this part of their empire into a sort of like a military government, a special sort of military government, district type thing. And anyway, I'm rambling. Right, it's early December 75, moves are made. We're looking at a big battle in Belgrade in the next 2 weeks, hopefully. We'll put you on pause past turn and see you in late December. Okay, welcome back. It's late December then, and interesting round, a lot of activity. Probably fair to say that not everything has gone our way, but it hasn't been any kind of catastrophe either. So the first action then happens on day one, and that's basically Abdi Pasha's command engaged. It has some support. The weird thing is with the support is none of it ever seems to add up to me, given the amount of kind of adjacent troops that there are and forces that are moving into theatre. But anyway, the support he gets basically amounts to, like, I don't know, I guess it is 4 commands, maybe 293,000 men. I mean, we shouldn't be too shocked at the defeat. We are massively outnumbered. There's like 800 and just under 840,000 Austrians. They got 3 times the number of guns. Slightly less cavalry, interestingly. And it's, definitely a Pyrrhic victory for the Austrians. They lose 65,000 casualties, a lot of range casualties. It's pretty messy. But yeah, a funny round. So that's the first action. And I guess a lot of those casualties are going to be concentrated into Abdi Pasha's command, which indeed they are. And it looks like there's an element that's lost in one of the corps. So, the Imperial Guard takes some heavy losses there. Anyway, next action is Chernobyl or Bukovina, which is the kind of attack on the right flank led by Abdelkarim Adir. He receives support that comes to nearly 200,000. It is against an Austrian force nearly twice the size, but badly organised. No kind of professional staffers in theatre, and it's drubbing for the Austrians. Good stuff. 125,000 casualties nearly inflicted for 32,000 on our part. 37,000 prisoners, and that's the kind of exchange rate we want. Not a fast action, it's a 4-round action. But yeah, it's what we want to see. And it's a win that leaves Abdelkarim in relatively good shape to continue operations. He has sustained some losses, but his force kind of is in a reasonably good shape. And it's not like there's any alarming. One thing that's good about this massive Austrian concentration is it lets us know where most of the Austrian army is. It's inconceivable that they have much more than that elsewhere, sort of thing. So, good stuff. But it doesn't end there. So, another engagement in Belgrade. It's another defeat for us. And it's nearly 50,000 casualties. We still inflict heavier casualties than the Austrians. 98,000. So, but again, it's 255,000 men against sort of, by now, 775,000 Austrians. I can't quite make head or tail of these figures. Von Ostrich is not as good a commander as Abdi Pasha. It's curious that Abdi Pasha is the theatre commander, given his seniority. I thought that it would be Hussein Avni, at a push. But, I mean, there's 5 corps there. There's 3 3-stars, so that is 3 commands. Plus casualties. I guess it does add up. But why is there only 3 commands when there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I mean, with support, it might be that the support simply doesn't work because he can't transit into that region. And I guess that's because of reasons, zone of control. I mean, I could kind of get it if it was from Banat going down, because of the zone of control. Was it even a fort in Sombor anymore, is there? I don't know. Scratching my head with this one. Because I haven't been successful, what I'm saying is the game is broken. It's not realistic, because I didn't win this battle. I think that's... No, in fact, yeah, that is the defeat. That's the main engagement, and it's not a win. It's probably good that our forces break contact. Some of those casualties are heavily concentrated. So Osman Nuri in particular, who's actually statistically a very good commander, the casualties are really, really heavily concentrated in his command. Even it looks like one element is lost in the cavalry division. Yeah, and there's another Austrian command to the south. So we've got to be a little bit careful here. We've got Austrian command here. And the Austrians break off the majority of their force as well and head to sort of Drobeta in Wallachia. We don't really know how big this Austrian... Well, we've got an idea of how big it is. It's not big. A small portion of the Austrian force, and by small, I mean 150,000 men, sort of thing. Small in a relative sort of way, is broken off and is besieging Sarajevo. That's not altogether bad. We could engage that probably in short order. We do have at least one commander. Hussein Avni, again, is not activated. I'm wondering if this is I wonder if he's like now not going to be activated because of the political turmoil that we're going to start seeing. Is he still in control yet? He's still there. He's not dead yet. Because having him activated would be a touch right now. Although, I mean, Suleiman Pasha's a 3-star. This is the advantage of having 3 stars in your stack, you see. Because... Is he activated? Is it Hussein Avni's command, is it? Yeah, he is activated. So I could theoretically just ditch Hussein Avni and use Suleiman. And fold Mehmed Z into Suleiman's command, sort of thing. I mean, for the purpose of an immediate operation, because we have... There's a little bit of urgency here now, because we're kind of being almost enveloped a little bit. We've got a lot of concentration around kind of Novi Pazar, which I don't like, with some forces that have sustained heavy losses and have to fall back. And none of these forces are in niche, which means if Ahmed Mukhtar gets pushed in Agosta, that would be dicey. That would be dicey indeed. What to do? Is that American fleet's back again? I should report also, before kind of contemplating too much more of Austria's moves, that the kind of revolt that was that has struck and that hit kind of various Austrian territories has actually spread. We've lost a bit of prestige. I checked prestige at the beginning. I thought, oh, okay, Fiume. So it was a pretty big revolt that took over the city. Yeah, so that's now controlled by kind of revolutionaries, who I don't know what the character of them are, whether they flipped to the side of Austria, or were they revolutionaries that sort of moved from Dalmatia northward. But anyway, it's now controlled by rebels, which is not great news, and it's not hardly the end of the world. But anyway, there's a follow-on action at Bukovina. It's a breaking action, so the Austrians take 2,500 casualties. Despite the fact that the casualties are light, we're seeing a lot of elements destroyed. So these are elements that are obviously kind of, to a large extent, paper formations, with probably a small kind of cadre of officers and NCOs. Nearly 10,000 prisoners as well. Good stuff. We only lose 1,300 men. So that's a kind of breaking action at Bukovina, which is, yeah, good to see. And wondering to what extent we can follow this up, you know. At the very least, to take pressure off the left, buy us a bit of breathing space. It's a 5-day march from Moldavia to Bukovina for Ahmed. And an 11-day march. Let's keep him defensive for now in Bukovina. The Austrian force is no longer visible in Russian territory, so my assumption is that crossed into Bukovina and was a part of that kind of Austrian mass that we just engaged, the remnants of which are now here in Carpenton. What to do on the left? What's our railroad access like? Decent. Through Nish, Sofia. Yeah, so we can get that cavalry division. Let's use the arsenal. Let's rotate some forces out using railroad points. It makes sense to do that, frankly. So let's get Osman Nuri into the fortress. There's a depot there, so that's good stuff. Let's check our supplies there. Yeah, they quickly worked through those, didn't they? The supplies in Sarajevo will be trapped off, but will supply the Sarajevo garrison, which is, by the way, substantial. "41 elements and a safe limit of 75. That's good. That's the advantage of upgrading and expanding fortresses, by the way. So yeah, it's good. 100,000 men, 105,000, and a very modern fort. So they should hold out. No supply should hold them for a while. We can still nudge supplies from Montenegro and Sofia to here, so we're okay for the time being. So we got Osman Nuri then. Right, let's get this cavalry division to Edirne. It's 4 days. And we'll switch it out with the cavalry division that we reconstructed from, who was it, Hussein Avni's command? And it's only just been reconstructed. And this was pretty much rebuilt from scratch. So it won't be comprised of very experienced soldiers, no. But it is what it is, and we're going to get that division up. Railroad into structure. Novi Pazar, Zornik, that's good. Alright, okay. What more can we do? Well, first of all, we're going to get Mephides at the Imperial Guard Corps. As opposed to just a line corps. I wonder if we have the railroad points to move one of these corps up. No, yeah, of course we will. Good stuff. If we're going to at least replace the 2 line corps of Osman's command, that'd be worthwhile. So bringing up reserves, committing them. 4 days, alright. It is going to look messy in Zvornik next turn, but anyway. Avdi Pasha's going to basically... he lost one element. How to play this? Because Osman Nuri is activated. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to lift these commands out and 3 core and give them to Hussein Avni, who is not activated. And we're going to lift out Hussein Avni's forces. We'll switch the guts of his command plus the cavalry division and give them to, please say it's the 4th army, yeah, Osman Nuri. Look at that pro gamer move. I've still got 2 points. Give that to the 4th. Okay. Right, we're in business. Okay, so let's move Osman Nuri north. What have we got? Yeah, 50 and 50. A lot of guns, 3 infantry corps, or 2 infantry, 1 guard. Commander, service asset units. Yeah, that's good stuff. Let's lift the siege of Sarajevo, 12-day march. It's depressingly long in torrential rain, I suppose, is it? Yeah. Game clunk alert, right? So I'm trying to get Hussein Avni's command into the town, into the city, to kind of billet the remaining forces and kind of use the shelter of the city, the depot, to accelerate replacements and so on. I mean, once they receive massive amounts of replacements, and some of these, I mean, much of this command is virtually gutted, it'll then take some time to actually reorganize the force, because the more replacements you get, the more it forces cohesion down. The cohesion of this force is not all that bad. That's only because probably the very few remaining troops are fairly experienced and in fairly good order. But once they get flooded with replacements, their cohesion will drop. It will require another fortnight or month or maybe longer to organize their cohesion. So the idea of moving up kind of reserve corps is to kind of... is if Hussein Avni is basically activated next turn, we can just deposit these kind of reconstructed forces in Adrianople. Rotate the force, basically. Just force rotation. So Osman Nuri's moving north to Sarajevo. Avdi Pasha really needs to sit tight as well. So with the second army, we've got Abdi sitting tight. Mehmet Ali's not in. Mehmet Ali's commander's in the best shape. Didn't get a scratch out of all of that. And he is activated. He's not a fast mover though, is he? Days force march chance 80%, brings that to 12 days. I think we're going to have to do that. I think we're going to have to shift some force to the right. 13 days. But yeah, it's 13 days, yeah, because it was on force march. 7 days. Right, let's bring the 6th Army south towards Belgrade. They meet up with the 1st Army there. Osman Nuri is going to conduct an independent operation, unsupported. Now, I think the best thing is for him to hold tight. The reason being is we've got 2 commands and a fortified position here, which, if assaulted, would be incredibly bad news. It result in a loss of 2 commands, basically, which we can't abide that kind of loss. We have enough railroad access points. No, we don't. We're pretty much using all of the rolling stock we've got. The good thing is Avdi Pasha can get an element replacement for his 3rd corps, or 2nd line, because he's in a depot. So that's good. Okay, bit of procrastination there. Well, not really. It's more just kind of Osman Nuri's going to hold position then, and we're going to relocate, reconfigure forces to the right. The problem is that the Austrians have got us flapping around like a kind of wet hen by shifting left to right. I don't like this. So this is the exact opposite of what you want mobile operations to do, which is to say you do not want them to be dictating the tempo, which is what they're doing. They're basically, we're reacting to them. This is exactly what you want opponents to be doing for you, you know. And as big as they do have a really dangerous amount of concentration, got about force parity now, but yeah, we don't really want to be constantly maneuvering our forces to respond to where they are, because it's like passing a turn, basically. I'll skip this turn and we'll make a move next turn, you know. And that was a bit of an abortive move. That Belgrade didn't pan out. I mean, it wasn't catastrophic, but it wasn't what we wanted, really. Anyway, let's just check the rest of the reports. So that's the combat reports. Bit of a long turn this, so I'll probably, so I don't make every single video like an hour and a half. I'll call it a day after the past turn. Yeah, so rebels capture Fiume, they capture harbour, industrial fort, depot, plus 2 cattle ranches. Great. Minus 37 prestige. 86 prestige from battles. Nice. Ali Pasha congratulates. A lot of congratulations. Fuad Pasha is blamed for a defeat. Osman Nuri is congratulated. So even though his command is virtually devastated, presumably he did something heroic and worthwhile in the midst of all that. Perhaps he sacrificed his command to allow forces to fall back or something. Big exports of dyes. Okay, good. Exports fish to Britain. Right, let's check that textile mill then, shall we? So it's now a factory which produces 10 textile units plus 1 prestige. I love that manufacturing generates prestige. That's so good. Consumption, 17 capital, 3 coal, 6 cotton or wool, 6 dyes, mechanical parts. Nothing too exotic then. It does increase demand on coal, but with the closure of our steel furnaces, we're actually seeing a bit of an increase in coal now. That's good. It's really good. It doubles production of textiles, plus gives us prestige. Let's upgrade the next one. Will it be able to do more than that? Just looking at... Yeah, we might be able to. What happened to my music, though? Another one in. Yeah, we can't do that one, so we're going to do one. Okay. So it's 3 times the amount of coal, I guess, reflecting the greater kind of mechanization that's being burned. Twice the amount of wool. Let's go. Dyes 6. Yeah, and twice the amount of dyes. That's good. Excellent. Okay. So 432 units of goods on the domestic market for 1800. Private capital generated, satisfaction increase average 0.57. Sold a total of 357 units, but for also 1800. Imports 173 units for 814. That's good. Textile region, oh yeah, factory upgraded. Alright. Just check exports. Okay, for some reason I thought I'd set exports. I hadn't. Just check mechanical parts really quickly. Yeah, that's good. Positive. Let's check iron. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, happy with that. Assets balance is good. 98% satisfaction. No shortages. We did not even apply to Austria. Good stuff. I think that's it. Let's have a quick scan around the map of the Empire, make sure that nothing looks too out of place. No, all good. Okay, it is late December. Bit of a long turn, that one. I'll put you on pause, past turn, and we will pick up then in late January. Yeah, see you on the other side. Okay, welcome back then. Early January 1876. Only one big engagement over the new year. And it's kind of mixed Austrian forces, what looks like. The remains of 3 corps, 80,000 men. We inflict 38,000 casualties for just under 10,000 ourselves. It's a good exchange rate. And I don't know where that force, whether it's probing south from Carpenton, or whether it's kind of Austrian forces that we couldn't see from Russia trying to cross through, but I don't think that they can do that. Anyway, it's a win, and it's the only engagement of the kind of late December period. We've successfully kind of redeployed 2 commands into Sofia. They're both activated. They're both in reasonably good shape. In fact, yeah, they're both in perfectly good shape. Both able to kind of maybe make a move, although I don't like the scale of that concentration. I think virtually all of that Austrian force has moved to kind of... By the way, that's surrendered in one turn as well. The sheer size of the Austrian force compelled, and it's Romanian controlled again, because of course we were in a perma war with the Romanians, and that was basically a sort of military district that we occupied. So that's now fallen under Romania. I think the Austrians also... I think they're also at war with the Romanians, meaning that they can probably stay there. Let's have a look. No, they're not. But do they have some sort of transit rights? Piedmont, Serbia, Moldavia. I think that's what it is. It's Moldavia has the Romanian flag. Well, the Austrian force took it and wasn't compelled to immediately leave, so it sort of rather answers our question, doesn't it? Military control, 90% Austria, 10% Moldavia. We'll see what happens with that force. But anyway, so let's have a look at our kind of Novi Pazar recovery. We've got the 4th Army and Osman Nuri Pasha in good order. Command points are good. Working through supplies, though. That's the problem with all this concentration, is that, yeah, it's going to start causing supply problems. We're drawing mostly from Sofia, so it's nudging through Niche. Luckily, we've got railroad access, but we probably used a lot of the railroad points in the last turn. So some of these forces are going to be probably a bit short in supplies. Yeah, ammunition shortage with Osman Nuri. Hussein Avenue Pasha's command then completely recovered, which is surprising. I mean, admittedly, it was in a kind of garrison sort of region, but okay. A garrison, you know, like a depot region. But I thought that it would take all of those replacements on board, and then it would require sort of a really lengthy period of time for reorganisation. Element replaced in Abdi Pasha's command. All right, good stuff. So that's the cavalry division for the 2nd Army. Yeah. Again, not activated, which is unlike Hussein Avni. He's like always activated as a high seniority level. Oh no, sorry, it's strategic. Strategic level of 4. Something's up with Hussein Avni. I think he's made to be not activated because of political developments. That's my conspiracy theory. Anyway. Right, let's swap Fuad Pasha out. We want a 3-star basically in Hussein Avni's command, partly because he's no longer activated, and also because he's probably going to be involved in a military coup soon. Okay. So we'll put Mehmed Izzet, give him the guard, and Abdi Pasha's command will give Fuad Pasha the Imperial Guard. Hussein Avni's command. Is he activated? Yeah, of course he is. Hussein Avni is the only person not activated. You know what? Let's take Hussein Avni out of the picture for a while, shall we? I feel like he's embroiled in some kind of political dirt it might be causing problems here. I don't want it to basically impede our military performance. So let's put him somewhere reasonably safe, at least, Sofia. And we'll keep an eye on what's going on there. Right. So we now have 4th, 2nd, 4th, 2nd, 8th. So Fuat Pasha is only 3-star, and he is a decent, good by the book strategist. Good stuff. We've got 2 reserve formations, which I tell you what, we'll give that to Hussein Avni. Change of heart. Let's bring Hussein Avni back to Adrianople with the reserve forces. Okay, good. Which we were surplus to requirements, surprisingly. Right, at the very least, we can now bring all of our commands out. You see that the impact of billeting is so profound. It has such a big... It's really noticeable. I mean, Hussein Avni's command, which is basically reconstructed, almost in a fortnight, completely. If that had been any like a location without a depot and a fortified position, it would take a month or 6 weeks. Right, we've got 3 activated commands in good shape, 2 activated commands in good shape in the center, 1 activated command in good shape on the right. Abdulkarim Nadir's command is not in good shape. How long will it take these boys to get back? 10 days plus 16. I'll tell you what, we'll bring them partially back, 5 days. Mainly so we can try and get some support in Bucharest. Main Austrian concentration is in the centre. What they've got on our right is weak and defeated. And the left is, I mean, the siege at Sarajevo was brief stuff, wasn't it? They've gone already. Where have they gone? Have they gone north? Have they moved through Sava? Is that them up there, having taken back Trieste? And that's a substantial Austrian force up there. Austrian scouting force. Damaged at that. And it's not engaged us. I wonder if it was damaged from kind of shelling or something. Anyway. Let's read through the other reports. The cavalry division already reconstructed. Amazing. Put in a reserve pool. That's a shame. Siam have seized our timber plant. I feel like the Austrians have the initiative, but it's not like we've had any devastating defeats or anything. Let's set the economy really quick. Chemicals are going up nicely. 84.92. I think we'll export anything over 50 because that's what's the export market like for chemicals? It is terrible. Okay. Timber's declining, isn't it? No, it's not. Okay, fine. North Germany 21. See, we're importing from areas where there's really extensive demand. South Brazil's okay, but not North Germany. It's import from Japan. There seems to be like no great demand for Japanese timber, and yes, timber in Japan is 80 units. Total requests including us 23. That'll do. Nice. Right, everything else looks good. I'll be frank, I'm not sure what to do just yet. I'm going to have to think about this. Because I feel like I'm just kind of following this massive Austrian command around, which won't really suffice as a long-term strategy. I don't want to move all of my forces to Drobeta, which in early January, with kind of quagmire, heavy ground, it's going to take a month. By the time they all get there, the Austrian forces move back to Belgrade, you know. So I'm just kind of thinking, what do I do? How do I play this? At the same time, I need sufficient force concentration to be able to engage that, because it's such a massive Austrian force. And okay, we can inflict heavy casualties, or, you know, they can experience a Pyrrhic victory and lose 90,000 or 100,000 men, but they've got a lot of strategic depth. They can replace that fairly readily. So I don't like this business of continuously, you know, I don't want them dictating the tempo of what I do, really. And the AI will react to you if you do the right things. I just don't think. I mean, for sure, we need to get these two commands back down into Wallachia. We can't have a kind of, you know, we can't have like 700,000 Austrian forces here while we've got 200,000 men up there. The other possibility is if Austria has such a massive concentration here, what have they got that's between our position in Novi Pazar and, you know, let's say for argument's sake, Sarajevo, if we got those forces to Sarajevo, and a clear run on Vienna, which is, in the last analysis, okay, it does cross quite a few waterways. It's not like the best journey in the world, but it's through flat terrain. Okay, not this time of year, but it's early January. What if we try to pull something off in May? What if we can continue to negotiate this massive Austrian force? This massive Austrian force becomes far less of a problem once we control Vienna. A stake in the heart of the demon. Keep it there, twist it, and then gradually kind of cannibalize their territories. It's worked before. Not every time, of course, but if they have nearly 1 million men in Drobeta, they can't have much anywhere else, frankly. Especially if they have force parity with us, and we've got, what, 1 million, 1.5 million is the size of our army? And we're already smashed an Austrian force for 300,000 up here. You can see the remnants of it in Ruthenian, Klausberg. Is it Klausberg? Whatever it's called. I wonder. $21 now. We're definitely going to get these boys down. It wasn't a serious consideration. I just kind of thought if it's a 3-day march and I can then switch from there through sort of, there might be a route that we can take that adds 4 or 5 days that sort of collides our commands into some sort of pretty ropey looking Austrian forces, but no, it's not on the cards. I'm going to have a think about what to do. No imminent danger. It's been a bit of we've not managed to follow up the sort of dazzling success of Bucharest and the first battle of Belgrade with anything like it. We're continuing to inflict heavy casualties in the Austrians, but frankly, we want to be doing a lot better than we are if we're going to have an attritional win. The good thing is we've only got a few more months of, that's not really that great, is it? A few more months. We've still got half of the winter left, basically. And half of the winter gives us fairly limited options in terms of manoeuvre. 3 months of sort of rain, snow, and quagmire. And that's been the problem, of course, in moving our forces. Anyway, it is early January 1876. We're going to pick up exactly where we are in early January. I'm going to have a look at this, have a think about it for a day or two. And, yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.